So I came across this video of Martin Saint-Louis, who is the hockey coach for the Montreal Canadiens, talking about his philosophy in how he coaches his players.
In systems, I feel like you box players in to be in a certain spot. And sometimes you don't allow them to make reads because of it. A concept is more playing with a little more instinct, with ideas of how we want to be as a team. Now, there is structure inside concepts. You know, systems, you can say structure. In systems, you box players into only certain things they can do. That was probably one of the things that I hated the most as a player, is play in a system.
So I think that's a really interesting way of describing a major hurdle that we find within the prevention space. We like to just think of systems as being orderly, being simple, things move smoothly, they're highly efficient, and with that efficiency, you get a lot of speed. But with that speed and efficiency, you lose a lot of your effectiveness. So that rigid system actually works against you, and things become more jumbled. Things begin to slow down. Things become harder to get done within a system because the nuances of life don't actually translate into what the system is designed for. So you see, sometimes systems will try to branch out, and they'll create these networks with other organizations and other systems, but those are usually very, very fragile. And so one person is usually leading that network, or a couple, but once one person sort of drops off, that network begins to sort of collapse. And so I think one of the reasons why systems don't actually work when you're dealing with people is because people don't operate in that very cookie-cutter way. It's not like tic-tac-toe or something that can be factored into a grid-like system. Human beings are messy. There's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of confusion. There's a bunch of competing different priorities and things that are going on in our lives, a series of ups and downs. Risk factors are interconnected. One feeds into the other. It amplifies another issue. It amplifies another risk factor. And if systems are rigid, you can't take on that kind of complexity. And so it becomes really, really difficult sometimes for systems to sort of see the forest through the trees. So we can use the issue of homelessness as an example. One doesn't just sort of become homeless. There's a lot of contributing factors that lead into that. There could be substance abuse, which also translates into food insecurity, which might be the result of undiagnosed mental health issues, which obviously makes it difficult to keep a job. So putting the responsibility on the person in crisis is a bit unfair because they don't know what's coming over the hill. They're just trying to get through the day or deal with whatever the major priority problem of that moment is. And so they don't have the capacity to navigate through the maze. And trying to find the right agency or program that's going to provide you with maybe a specific type of assistance doesn't help the overall issue. And so this often leads to people feeling that help is slightly out of reach, and that compounds the existing issues even more. And it leads to people who are in crisis having to pick up the pieces themselves. And that obviously is not what the system was designed to do. The design of the system was to help, but in its quest for efficiency, it loses its efficacy. And so people are lost and they feel alone, and what was designed to be a safety net turns into sort of this downward spiral, doom loop that they feel like they can never get out of. And that can lead to things like depression, doing more drastic measures of an illegal nature, or even worse yet, suicide. And that brings us to the state of Vermont and this study that was conducted of compiling information from 14 different state agencies and programs. And what they found that 99% of the people that committed suicide within a calendar year had been in contact with some state assistance program or entity, and that 78% of those people were in contact with 3 or more. Now, while it's easy to point the finger and say that the state of Vermont failed, I'll have you know that they are the only state that publicly did a study like this and published it. So they should be given kudos for that. But it also has a little bit deeper meaning. It shows that a lot of these people are known entities to different systems, but that those systems don't communicate and aren't holistic, that they're focused more on a specific target or symptom or risk factor rather than treating the whole person and trying to coordinate the services to best fit the person. And this is similar to the violence prevention space as well. How many times after an attack do we hear the perpetrator was known to the police, or had a number of run-ins with mental health, or had a long history of behavioral issues at school? All of these systems are working within their own silos, within their own lanes, and they aren't connecting the dots. So the time has come, I think, to develop a new strategy, a new way of working, not focusing so much on one particular target issue, but to coordinate across different systems, to share information, and to wrap services around that individual to more a concept of care, and breaking those silos that brings together all those different sectors and gets them the help that they really need.